Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to attend today's webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Renika Lightbourne. I'm truly honored to have our special guest, Ms. Darlene Coquerel. She has about 25 plus years as a real estate professional. She's also the CEO of the Ultimate Foreclosure Formula. So Darlene, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for being our special guest today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. So Darlene will cover how to go about navigating through the foreclosure process. She'll talk about how to talk to motivated sellers and being able to structure your offer to where you can be able to close more deals and get better opportunities, but also to give you some general ins and outs of the foreclosure process in terms of what to be mindful of, especially in today's climate. Before I turn it over, I do want to just give you a quick synopsis of what self-directing is, the different account types, options available to you, and of course, how to get started with Advanta. If you have questions, definitely feel free to type those in the question box. We'll do our best to answer as much of those throughout the webinar, but also to allocate some additional time at the end if needed. Again, I'm Renika Lightbourne. I'm one of the business development specialists. I've been with Advanta as an employee since 2019. Prior to joining the staff, I'm also an existing client of Advanta. I personally self-direct my retirement account. And also a couple of years ago, real estate is my preferred strategy. So I actually had the ability, the opportunity, to learn directly from Darlene about the foreclosure process. If you have specific questions or you want to do a deeper dive about self-directing, talk through your scenario, feel free to give me a call, send me an email. I'm happy to help. So just a little housekeeping before we get started. At Advanta, we don't give any tax, legal, or investment advice. We also don't endorse any particular products. Just know that all of the information presented today is just for educational purposes. So as always, we encourage you to consult with your professional team, like your attorney, your CPA, financial advisors, and so forth. A little history about Advanta and who we are. We are recognized as one of the leading self-directed IRA administrators in the industry. We've been in business for about nearly 20 years now. Our headquarters is in Largo, Florida, which is the general Tampa Bay area. We have an office in Atlanta, which is where I'm located. But we do work with clients nationwide. As a result, we have well over $1.4 billion under administration. In terms of how we set ourselves apart, our goal is to provide our clients the highest and that concierge style service. So for you as a client, you have a dedicated account manager. And then of course, our commitment to providing great educational content that features guest speakers and experts like Darlene to knowledge share about the different investment options available to you. If you're relatively new to the concept, you might be wondering, well, exactly what is a self-directed IRA? In its simplest form, it gives you the control to have control over your retirement funds, over the investment decisions. It gives you the ability to really diversify your account. Obviously, today we're going to be focusing on real estate, but you can use IRA funds to invest in the likes of notes and mortgages, heavy equipment, farm animal, private equities. Certainly cryptocurrency is a hot topic right now. My colleague Clay Malcolm actually has a webinar on Thursday about cryptocurrency. So if that's an interest to you, definitely sign up on our events page for that. You can use IRA funds to invest in oil and gas. The list goes on and on. You really get the ability to be as creative as you want to invest in what is it that you know, what is it that you understand, or what is it that you have an interest in. So you might be asking yourself, well, why do people choose to self-direct? I'm only going to highlight three of the most common reasons, but just know that you can self-direct for, a number of reasons like, hey, it can be a new source of capital for you. If you have money that's sitting in an old 401k or an existing IRA, you can elect to move those funds over into a self-directed account so you don't have to take out that personal bank loan or tap into your personal savings. Another reason as to why someone may choose to self-direct is because of the ups and downs in the stock market. No one can actually time the market, but a lot of times with self-directing, a lot of investors are real estate investors because we know with real estate, it always holds some value. And then the tax benefits, having those profits, those rents, those dividends flow back into your retirement account, tax-free or tax-deferred, depending on the type of account that you have. In terms of the different accounts that can be self-directed, just know that any type of IRA can be self-directed. Again, self-directed just means you get to decide what is it that you want to invest in, but the account type is actually, a traditional IRA or Roth IRA. If you have a small business, side hustle, you can self-direct a SEP, simple, or solo 401k. A lot of real estate investors like the solo 401k just because you have some more flexibility with that type of account. But any former employer plan, like a 401k, 403b, TSP, or pension type plan can be self-directed. Some lesson in accounts or educational savings accounts, or you can look to self-direct a HSA to cover medical related expenses. The key point that you want to take away is just knowing that the contribution levels varies between the different account types. And then with a Roth, your distribution is tax-free at retirement as long as you've had the account for at least 5 years. In terms of getting started with Advanta, we've really streamlined that process for you in 3 simple steps. First and foremost, you get to go through the process of opening your account by completing the application. Our IRA application can be done online via DocuSign. You'll have someone like myself to walk you through that process. But again, once your account is open, you will have a dedicated account manager that's assigned to you to help you when you're ready to make an investment with the investment paperwork. Step 2 is funding the account. So you have several options. If you have a former employer plan, you can roll it over. If you have an existing IRA, you can transfer as much or as little as you want or need to make that investment. There's no tax liabilities to you to do so. Or you can make a cash contribution in accordance with the IRS limits, or you can use a combination of all 3. And then finally, step 3, start investing. What is it that you want to invest in? Is it that, that foreclosure property that's in a good neighborhood that you want to be able to put into your IRA? You get to invest with, whatever it is that you have an interest in. It gives you the ability to diversify your retirement account. With that, I'm going to go ahead and transition over to Darlene. Just bear with me one moment.
All right. Well, thanks again. I'm real happy to be here. And, I just seem to get tons of speaking engagements on foreclosures right now, and I'm sure that'll continue for a while. I've been in the business 30 years, actually. Bought my first house in 1991. It was a HUD foreclosure. It took me a year to get my bids accepted. I mean, we were so new at it, my ex-husband and I, and just so green. And finally, we bought a duplex in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and it was as an owner occupant. So that was the way I got my first deal done. Couldn't get my offers accepted. Kind of like the market we're in now, right? We're just crazy. Many offers, such little inventory. I get questions all the time about foreclosures. What do I predict is going to happen? For a little bit of my background, so I bought my first deal in 91. My next one was a VA foreclosure. I bought a corporate relocation, and then I bought 4 townhomes in Gwinnett County that were in the same neighborhood. 3 different closings, but 4 townhomes from the savings and loan collapse, and on. And then I learned the subject to process in the early 90s, got my license in 1994. I start going to all these seminars and in small groups with the RIAs, and just got a lot of good training in partners. And that's really what took my business to the next level, is going from doing it on my own to really partnering up with others and just making alliances. It's just amazing that everybody has superpowers. Everybody has, strengths and weaknesses. And when you realize your weakness and align yourself with somebody with that strength, it takes your business to a whole new level. And in 2009, I was doing pre-foreclosures. I was doing at the courthouse steps. I was doing post-foreclosures. And then 2009, I got a phone call from a past client and said, hey, we're looking to expand from Cobb County and wanted to know if you're interested in going to the foreclosure auction in Gwinnett. I'm like, oh yeah, Gwinnett was my favorite. I spent 25 years living in Gwinnett, and anyway, loved it. And so for the next 10 years after that, I hitched my wagon to a really big wagon and transacted thousands of properties from on the buy side, on the sell side. As a broker, as a real estate broker, I had 4,000 properties under management during that period. We were boots on the ground in several states. Our biggest day ever, we bought 252 houses at foreclosure auctions. And that was 35 counties, counting Atlanta, Georgia, Houston, Texas, and Dallas, because Texas and Georgia have the exact same foreclosure laws. So that again was just such an amazing place. Again, this is the same girl that took a year to buy her first house. So get the training, get the networking going on, all that good stuff. But today, I just want to talk about, I've got a lot to say about what happened in 2008 and what's happening now and what's to come. But I think today I want to talk a little bit about, after having a conversation with Renika, how to use your IRA, how to bind foreclosures, how to find them. There's a lot of opportunities to use your IRA money when it comes to foreclosures. Investors are asking me, are you really able to buy foreclosures right now? So I'll show you a sample of one recent one we just did. We stopped the foreclosure. It was Easter Sunday, Easter weekend. We stopped the foreclosure the Monday after Easter, the Monday before foreclosure, and we're in the process of renovating it now. So it does work. The marketing, it takes a lot of work. You've got to be committed to this business. Right now, you just can't find a property on the internet or on MLS, make an offer and buy a house. Everybody on this call probably knows that. You can't just go put an offer out there and buy a house anymore. You got to go digging for gold, and that's what we do. So I'll talk a little bit about finding foreclosures, navigating the foreclosure process. There's 3 stages of foreclosure. I'll touch on all 3 of those today. Talking to motivated sellers, and then kind of structuring your offer, not just using all cash to close because you're going to bring in a low offer, and there are too many big investors out there with deep pockets that are going to pay more than we're going to pay. So we'll talk a little bit about those strategies. Go get a pencil and paper, guys, or get your Word document ready to take notes. I know me, I type faster than I write, so I take notes on Word. But let's talk about the 3 stages of foreclosure. In pre-foreclosures, you're buying directly from the homeowner. Foreclosures, that's the legal closure. That's the legal process where the lender takes the property back. So some states are non-judicial states, and that happens on the courthouse steps. Some states are judicial, and the lender has to sue to get their property back. Regardless, stage 2 is the foreclosure, is the legal closure, where the defaulted borrower no longer owns the property. So once it gets to stage 2, this affects the lenders. These are non-performing assets. So once these properties go over that line in the sand into stage 2, the lender has a default credit report, if you will, rating, and it has affected banks a lot in the past. What that means is, depending on how bad their credit rating is, in other words, how many billions of dollars they have in default, they have to keep back in reserves the following year a certain percentage times that. So it could be as much as 8 to 10 times the number of defaults. So if they cross over stage 2 and they've got 10 billion in default, and they have a rating of 5, that's 50 billion. The following 12 months, they can't loan out that money, and that's the business the bank is in. So the government has a vested interest to make sure that the banking system doesn't collapse in our country, as well as trying to help homeowners keep their homes out of foreclosure. So there's a lot of things going on right now. You guys have probably heard of the moratoriums. As of right now, the eviction moratorium and the foreclosure moratorium should come to an end by the end of next month. Well, there's still fighting going on out there to try to stop the lenders from foreclosing until 2022. And I don't know how that makes it any different than a moratorium of foreclosing, but my theory has been, since about 2018, my prediction has been 2023 is the year that we're going to see a lot of havoc out there in the economics again. So I think that we're not going to see a whole lot of activity in that foreclosure pipeline this year. I think that it's going to continue to be kick the can down the road. But we're still buying, and there's still people out there to talk to. In the state of Georgia right now, there were only 394 houses. I think it was 394 in the entire state coming up for the June 1st auction. And I'll show you a way too, by the way, by the time we get to the end, we do we do offer pre-foreclosure leads, and we do underwriting for those and so on. So I'll give you some info. Buying at the courthouse steps, we'll talk a little bit about that today, but I'm mostly going to talk about how to find motivated sellers in stage 1 and in stage 3. Post foreclosures, that's buying directly from the bank. If during stage 2, the lender doesn't sell the property to a third party, then they take the property back, and then it becomes an REO, which is a bank real estate owned asset. So it becomes a bank owned property. And I'll show you some of those. We buy in all 3 stages. When it comes to pre-foreclosure leads, as I mentioned, if you really want to dabble in this business, I'm going to give you some helpful tips today on how to talk to motivated sellers, how to talk to sellers, how to talk to people in pre-foreclosure. So what we do is we do provide pre-foreclosure leads if you're interested, just for supporting Renika and Advanta today. But there's a link at the bottom, ultimateforeclosureformula.com investor resources. Also, I think we'll give it to you at the end. But we give up, if you give us 5 zip codes, just put in 5 zip codes, we'll give you leads, and I'll show you what they look like. And it includes the ARV, the Mayo, the rehab estimate, potential equity, the rent estimate, and so much more. For those who are new to real estate, ARV is the after repaired value or the fair market value. Mayo, we run a formula and we come up with our Mayo, which is our maximum allowable offer. Getting started in the business, new investors, number 1, they don't know how to find deals, and number 2, they don't know how to calculate the numbers accurately and how to write creative deals, and that's what we specialize in. So I'm going to share a little bit with you as I can in 45 minutes. This is a sample of what our list looks like. Like I said, we do all the preliminary deal analysis for you. So if you choose 5 zip codes, here are some here in Cumming, Dawsonville, Alpharetta. You can see the information. You see the purchase price, the purchase date, the year the property was built, the square foot, the bed bath, the lot size. We have Zestimate, the Zillow estimate in here. We have Zillow rent in here. We have a rehab amount. So because I've been part of a team where we've done thousands of rehabs, I put a grid together based on the square footage and the year built, and just came up with just a grid so that we can do preliminary underwriting. They say you can't steal in slow motion when it comes to real estate. You got to be quick. This market is so competitive, you have to be able to get more offers. My mantra is make more offers, see less houses. So learn how to run your numbers. And so the Mayo is your maximum allowable offer. We'll show you how to come up with that. But anyhow, I know that some of you are elsewhere, but if you're in Georgia, we'll help you with some pre-foreclosure leads. Renika, is there something to discuss?
Yeah, 2 questions just came up about, being in the state of Georgia only. Do you provide lists for other states like Florida or Texas?
I can get on a one-on-one. So at the end, we can give a contact. They can sign up on my calendar for a one-on-one, and we can look at those.
Okay, perfect.
What I have in Georgia is set up. We've created automation. So I buy the list here in Georgia every month for the entire state, and then we've created our automation. So for the other states, I have sources, but I have to spend probably 50 minutes to an hour individually.
To source, okay. And then the other question is the MAO formula. The Mayo formula, is that the formula that you use for all of your deals?
So that's a great question. It sounds like an experienced person asking, actually. So on a buy and hold, Mayo does not really work for buy and hold. A buy and hold investor can pay so much more than somebody who's using a Mayo formula. The Mayo formula is simply only if you are going to bring all cash to closing. If I'm going to do a subject to deal, or I'm going to do owner finance, or I want to buy and hold, I'm not going to use Mayo formula. So the first answer is no. And yeah, we have office hours every week with our students and twice a week. And a big part of what we do is spend time on calculating deals. When we put it through, like when it comes through on the pre-foreclosure leads and the deal analysis, we also have a deal portal. People can put their deals in there and get the automated underwriting there as well. You have to take into consideration a lot of folks who want to buy and hold use the 1% rule. So basically, they want their monthly rent to be 1% of their all-in. That's their purchase price plus renovation cost. So
Okay.
it may help in that situation.
Thank you. I have one follow-up question before you move on. How do you determine what you'll do with the property, whether you rent it, flip it, wholesale?
Great question. Is that from you or from someone else?
That's someone else.
Oh, okay. I thought you were asking. No, that's a great question. My people ask me all the time, what's the best place to buy properties? What's the best place to invest? And my answer is never a geographical answer. My answer is always, how many exit strategies can I have with that property? So I'm always looking at, for me personally, and I do have IRA funds, I do have the ability to get hard money out there. I do have different sources for lending. Most of my lending is short term. So the only way I'm going to buy and hold is to be able to not put a whole lot of my own cash in the deal. But if I've got partners on the deal, there's different ways to look at it. When I'm looking at an area, I want to know that there is a retail market in that area. That's what I'm looking at for flipping. I'm very, very interested in wholesaling. So if I'm looking at a deal that I want to see, can I wholesale it? Can I flip it? Sometimes I'll flip it, sometimes I'll wholesale it. This one right here in Douglasville, this is the foreclosure that we stopped at the beginning of April. And this young lady here, that's the house on the left, you know, she was super excited. We ended up giving her $3,000 cash. We also helped her move. We helped her get everything, and we just said, leave everything behind. So except for the first and last picture, this is what the house looked like after she moved. And so we're in the process of renovating it now. I would have done a wholesale deal on this one, but we're doing the renovation and we're flipping it. And it is subject to, if I had a lot of cash to keep in the deal, this was a great buy and hold, except it cost us $23,000 cash at closing, and then it cost us $22,000 for the renovation. So I'm all in for $45,000, and that's cash I have to think about. Do I want to keep a rental that's paying me $400 a month and I've got $45,000 cash in it, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the thought processes that I go through if I decide. And when you do subject to, you know, that's where the loan stays in the borrower's name, but we put the property in a trust and then continue making payments. We reinstate the loan and then we make payments. Which, Renika, back to you, I have a question. So if an IRA, we've done this in the past, just want to confirm, an IRA could be the beneficiary of the trust. If the trust owns the property, right, the IRA funds could be used in this situation on subject to deals.
Yeah, so just high level, you can, you know, your IRA can, you know, the trust can be the beneficiary of an IRA where you have the property, as long as, to your point, it's
somebody else is the trustee.
Yes, and then also too, there's no redo of the loan itself if the loan stays in the original owner.
That's right. One of the
non-recourse loan, that's the only situation that you have to be more so mindful of.
And that is one reason I do like subject to for IRA usage, because you're right, there is no it is not a recourse loan for the IRA, which is great. And like, for example, in this particular case, we're always looking for partners. Sometimes you have IRA money, you might be able to put it to use with somebody else's deal like this. Like, we put up $23,000 to stop the foreclosure. We've got to put up another $22,000 for the renovation. We're more than happy to partner with folks. This is one of our students actually that found the deal, and we brought the expertise to make it happen, and we both put up the cash. So in that case, that's a way that you potentially could find yourself in real estate. You don't have to take on the project all by yourself. When it comes to pre-foreclosures, you're buying directly from the homeowner. We do creative deal structuring. Sometimes it's a short sale, sometimes subject to, sometimes owner finance, sometimes all cash at closing. Those are typical pre-foreclosure contract strategies. To find them, you could use direct mail, email, outbound phone calls. We do everything. We do driving for dollars, door knocking, put out flyers. Miss Sue Lynn, the one we just showed you, we did an email on the pre-foreclosure list, and she responded, and then I talked to her on the phone, and then went out there, and so on and so forth. We did that deal in a week, and it's not easy to do, I promise you. And it was Easter. It was Good Friday, which was a closed. It was a business day that was closed. We got Andrew Gervey's team to help get it done. We worked through the weekend on Easter and knocked it out on the Monday before foreclosure. But so it takes a lot of work. A lot of people have to move fast if you want to do that. But the main thing is to be able to find these. And again, the pre-foreclosures, which is also the foreclosure list. We follow them sometime from the very stage 1 all the way to stage 3. If we can't buy it in pre-foreclosure, sometimes we end up buying it in post-foreclosure. So when you start working the same territory over and over again, that's one of the exciting things that happens. You know, you get to already know about that property. One thing I mentioned earlier was to get your pen and paper out and take some notes, because I'm going to give you some good stuff in a minute. Buying at the steps, you got to have a lot of cash available, whether it's yours or somebody else's. You have to have a lot of money to be able to buy at the stage 2, whether it's at the courthouse steps or inside. In most states, all the money is due when you win the bid. When you buy in stage 2, it's a little bit risky. So it's very risky. Well, it's not a little bit risky, it's very risky. You have to know what you're doing. You don't do this if you're brand new in the business or if you don't have an experienced partner. But you have to evaluate it from the curb. You don't get to go inside. You need to do a preliminary title search, because there are some liens and judgments that survive the foreclosure, and you need to know what they are. Because if you buy it for $100,000 and all of a sudden there's $18,000 attached, you now own it for $118,000, and that could have been your profit right there. It can take up to 30 days to get your title after you pay. When you buy it at the auction, you may not get title right away. So a lot of times that means you cannot get loans out there until you have title. Bring all cash to closing on the day of auction, and you're responsible for evicting the occupants. So this is a very advanced strategy. Like I said, I'm not really going to talk about 2 today, but let's talk about stage 3. Stage 2 and stage 3 are definitely my favorite stages of foreclosure. I'm in stage 1 right now because we have to be in stage 1. There was a point of time in Georgia, there were over 200,000 foreclosures in 1 year between 2011 and 2012, 200,000 foreclosures. This past year, we had about 10,000. Forget about COVID-19 for a second. In 2019, there were only 20,000 foreclosures versus 200,000 at the height of the market. And if I go backwards from 2010 back to 2000, same thing. Back in 2000, we had about 20,000 foreclosures for the whole year, right? And here we are 20 years later, forget about 2020, but in 2019, we're at the same place. So we're going to go back up that mountain. How high up are we going to go? We don't know. But I'm going to tell you this, that in 2008, those were the most number of foreclosures in history up to that point. The first quarter of 2019, there were 616,000 foreclosure notices across the country. And today we have 3.5, I don't know how many millions of families, households still in forbearance. And we're calling forbearance a foreclosure incubator. So a lot of those coming out of forbearance eventually will turn into foreclosures. If you took that number there times the 616,000, divide the difference, that's 5 times that number, 5.5 times that number. So even if just 25% of these forbearance households go into foreclosure, there are a ton coming out. There's a good chance that we're going to dwarf the numbers that came out of 2007, 2008. I predicted that the government would have a tax credit or down payment assistance. And here we are again. I just heard this last week. We've got a $25,000 first generation tax credit, just like we had back in 2009. It's similar to what we had in 2009, 2010. So we're going to see a bunch of stuff continue to happen where the government intervenes. the moratorium comes to an end. And somewhere between 90 days and 9 months after, that faucet opens up. So you have two huge buckets of foreclosures not going through the pipeline right now. So this is why I say foreclosures is the place to be. Learn this process now. Get good at bidding online, get good at talking to sellers. So that's kind of how we are. So post foreclosures, it's online bidding. It could take 30 days to close. So you can put your funding in place. You don't have to have all the money immediately. These are my favorite auction platforms. You might want to just take a note down and go play on there. Auction.com is the most investor friendly. HUD Home Store, you have to have a broker to submit your bids, but we use HUD Home Store a lot because we get responses on every bid. And that's the good thing about that. Right now, there's hardly anything there, but keep watching it every week. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Hudson and Marshall, those are the main ones. Here's tips on winning the bid. Number one, you have to follow up all the time. Number two, track the end of the auction results so that you can see a lot of these properties come back again and again and again. And number three, this is the most important. When you learn your Mayo formula, always place bids if your Mayo is equal to or greater than the next bid. If your Mayo is 60,000 and the bid is 40,000, you should put a bid on that property. And you know, my mantra is make more offers, see less houses. At least drive the neighborhood, get familiar with what it looks like. But you know, if your Mayo is a very low offer, and if you were to look at that, you should be putting your bids out there. Here's a couple I'm bidding on recently. This one, Holly Ridge, is over in Canton. Here I'm the highest bidder at 300,000. Here's another one on the right-hand side. This is down in Macon, Whirlwind in Macon. My bid was 25. It's well over 100,000 on that house right now. But you have to just keep bidding. This one on the left-hand side, that's gone to auction 3 times already, 816 Holly Ridge. So you just have to you got to make it part of your process. Any questions, or I'm going to go back to stage 1 real quick.
Yes, so I do have a question. So it's more so a comment. Well, what are the impact from COVID?
Mm-hmm.
That was just the question. I don't know if the guests want to elaborate more. And then another question is, how do I determine what the market value of the property? Yeah,
great question. So you have to be very careful. That's one of my specialties. Transaction engineer is who I am. I'm responsible for this. And determining the market value in a market like this is very difficult, and it can be very dangerous for especially new investors. The way to determine market value is I like to look at MLS. So if you're not an agent, you need a good agent on your team that's willing to give you information. You've got Zillow, you've got Redfin, you've got Realtor.com. There are a lot of software programs out there. PropStream is one of the most popular ones for investors. You got all kind of software to show you, but you have to learn how to evaluate. That's a very deep question. There's no simple answer, and if people tell you there is, you're missing stuff. So a lot of people will take sold properties in a certain vicinity and say this is the sales price per square foot, and so mine must be the same. You can't just take that. There's a lot more to it than that. When I look at MLS, I look at, let's just say I drill down to a half a mile from the house. And let's say that I see that there are 30 total properties on that list for the last 6 months. There's active, there's under contract, there's withdrawn, there's expired, there's sold. If there's 30 properties and 18 of them have been sold and 8 of them are under contract and 1 was withdrawn and there's no active listings, whatever the case is, I like that ratio. I have no expired listings, I have no active listings. Active is your competition. Under contract is what the market is telling you right now. That's what the market is doing right now. Sold is what the market just did. So whether you look at the last 90 days, 180 days, 12 months, whatever it is, you're looking at yesterday. You used to be able to look at yesterday to predict tomorrow, but in a transition our transition could last the next 12 to 18 months. So we're in such a transition, and we're in a hyper low inventory market. So it's very difficult. As soon as that changes, you have to be careful. We've got offers out there like crazy that are coming in on our properties, and people are foregoing the appraisal contingency. Well, it's a good thing, because I also have appraisals that are not coming in high enough. So it's a crazy mixed up market. You cannot do it on your own. You got to network with some strong people in the business. Get in some good, YouTube videos. I've got Ultimate Foreclosure Formula. I've got a great training program. We do 90 days of hand-holding with you. But the main thing is get out there, and this is the basics right here. When it comes to talking to sellers, we use the property info sheet. Your leading questions, you always need to know, what's your situation? Why are you selling? That's the first thing we ask. And then we ask, what do you hope to have happen? That helps me decide if I could do a creative deal structure or if I have to bring all cash to closing. And then the next one is, what's the lowest I could get? If we paid all cash, close on the day of your choice, what's the lowest you would take? Do you have a mortgage? And then we go into the mortgage information. Would you be willing to walk away for what you owe on it? Those are the different strategies right there. Number one, you know why they're selling, what do they want to have happen? I also like to ask, when did they want to close? When you've got that information, this is our property information sheet. And again, I'll give you a link to go get your own and make 50 copies. Go get 2 clipboards, put one in your car, put one at home, start talking to sellers. We drive for dollars. I do a door knocking a couple times a year. We take out a group of people, and it's not just about trying to talk to somebody at the door and buy their house. It's about getting out into the streets, getting into the neighborhoods, finding out what territory, because we have to find the deals. Right now, for the next year or two, it's about finding the deal. That's really how you're going to buy real estate. You got to find it that it's not already on the radar. Small talk, the bottom of the property information sheet. I don't really need this information, but sometimes I'm trying to build a relationship out of a phone call. Somebody who just called me from my flyer. Mrs. Jones, tell me about the house. How many bedrooms, bathrooms? Do you know what the square foot is? When was it built? Do you have a basement? What's the construction? The age of the roof? When's the last time the roof was replaced? How about the heating and air? And so on. If you had a blank check, what would you do to the property right now? Things like that. So these are just good examples of how to get out there and start talking. Same thing, here's the key questions. If we can stop the foreclosure with pre-foreclosures, would you be willing to walk away for what you owe? Where will you go and when? That's it right there. What's highlighted in yellow, nothing else matters until you have those answers. All the arrows are the important points. So if you can go back and see this over and over again, or take a screenshot, this is what you need. You need to know the asking price. You need to know what's your situation. Why are you selling? What do you want to have happen? What does that mean, Darlene? That means, do they want the top price, or do they just want to wash their hands and walk away from the property? Existing mortgage, is there a foreclosure date set? When's the last time you talked to the lender? How much is owed to bring the property current? These are questions that we use to decide whether or not we could do subject to.
Darlene, I have 2 questions really quick. If you have.
Yep, hold on one sec. Guys, take this down. If you want a copy of that property info sheet, you can get it through my website, our promo. Hey, Renika, go ahead.
Yeah, so that was actually one of the questions is, how would I get a copy of the worksheet? But another question is, who's the right professionals I need on my team? You mentioned appraiser, but can you list who should I have on my team?
Yep. So I think you need 2 or 3 good real estate agents. You need 2 or 3 good real estate agents, because not one agent can be the be all and the end all of what you need. You need somebody who's good on the computer, good on the analysis, somebody who's willing to work with you. And sometimes, guys, look, we're investors. Think outside the box. You can pay real estate agents monthly or weekly for giving you services. It doesn't just have to be a commission. There are some agents out there that are amazing. And you might want them to be part of your team. You may bring them in as a partner, even if it's a small percentage of a deal, whatever it may be. But we get a lot of investors that promise us listings in the future. And I say, thank you, that's okay. What I'm looking for is revenue right now. And so as a real estate agent, as a real estate broker, you know, what do I offer? Anything you need, we can set up a lot for you to be able to be a better real estate investor. You need a couple really good real estate attorneys or title companies, depending on the state you're in. You need attorneys that are investor friendly. Back to the agents, they need to be investor friendly. You need good contractors. You need to be able to have, you need a good meetup group. Find your good investor group in your area and start attending those investor groups, because you need people who are vetted. Contractors, you know, on that Douglasville deal right now, my contractors who I've known since the 90s they're funding the renovation for me. Now, I'm paying a little bit more than if I were to manage the whole process, but they're funding the renovation, and then I owe them at the end of the renovation, 60 days after it's done, or when the property is sold, whichever comes first. Unheard of, and now the business is starting to turn in that direction. When you first get started and you hire contractors, they say, we want 50% up front. You don't want to necessarily hire that person. And that's a long story.
Actually, that was one of the questions or comments that came in. So could you touch on the process of developing trust relationships with a contractor if you're going to be rehabbing and developing those relationships so you can use them over and over again?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's such a difficult balance. When we were rocking and rolling and buying, you know, hundreds of properties every month, we had so much work to keep the contractors busy. When we got around to 2018, 2019, we had a lot less properties to work on. If you only have one property, it's very difficult to keep somebody completely engaged. If you have a few properties you're working on, you've got a lot more work for them. So those guys, what it is a group of contractors. You don't just have one person. You typically have a project manager and or a general contractor and or subcontractors, different trades. You don't want to, you know, unless you love that and you want to be that person to manage all that, you need somebody who's real good at it. So it's kind of difficult. It's a give and take. You have to find the give and take in there. And they say, never let them get ahead of you, because here's what happens. If you're paying them too much money and there's a lot of work left and no pay for them, they're going to go out and find the pay somewhere else, and your job is going to sit there. So that's why it's difficult. Even though you interview 3 or 4 different contractors and they say 1/3 up front, 1/2 up front, whatever they're saying, you have to be careful not to let them get ahead of you, because you won't get your job done. And this is a crazy market. It's a very difficult market. Depending on where you are in the country, we're having a hard time seeing people go to work. So, you know, there are delays and there are more expenses these days than there have been in the past. So I just want to say that as a new investor, you're better off partnering with some experienced investors, not to buy and hold. I want to caution you not to hold with somebody you don't really know yet, but to flip. If you want to fix and flip, do it with an experienced partner. I'm going to tell you, every one of us who have done it will tell you that no matter how little money we made on it, that education was off the chain. So just keep that in mind. But once again, you have to be very careful. If you're putting up all the money, once again, you need to be very careful on you know, how that all plays out. It's difficult. Getting started is you got to do a lot of homework. And I will offer one-on-one at the end. I think we can give out some information. They can get on my calendar, and if you want to get on a 50-minute call with me, I'm more than happy to just talk with you about your business and such. Now here's the most scary thing in the business. After the seller says yes, now what? Right? What are you going to do? And so what I do is I put together an ebook, and I'll give you guys the ebook if you want. 5 easy steps to get started. And number 1 is get your business cards, and then get rid of your business cards. Tell everybody you know you're looking for a house, and what's the address? When can I come see it? After you get there, ask these key questions. What's your situation? Why are you selling? What do you want to have happen? When do you want to close? If I give you all cash and close on the day of your choice, what's the lowest you would take? tell me about the house or let me see the house. Great, thank you so much. When you get to that point, memorize this script. That's the step. Once you get here, we can help you through the rest of the process. But getting here, this is the key, is Mr. Jones, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me about your house. Let me see how I can make the numbers work. What I'm gonna do now is go back to my computer, do a little bit of research, see what the market looks like, and discuss it with my partner. If the numbers look good and I think we can make it work, then I'll call you back and arrange to come back out and go over the agreement with you and review the whole process. Is that fair enough? And if you like everything and agree, all I ask is that you be prepared to sign the agreement then. Is that fair enough? That's the key. And then we have a deal portal. We say, bring your deals back. This is what we do with our students. Bring your deal, put it in the deal portal. It's going to spit out the automated underwriting, and you're going to have 2 or 3 offers. Mr. Jones, this is exciting. Thank you so much. I love your house. I would like to buy the house. Can I come back out and meet together? And you need to give a couple different scenarios. You could do an all cash at closing and close fast, or you could do their price, your terms, or their price, your terms. Their price, your terms, or your price, their terms, which is close fast. So learning all that is the key, is how do I structure those deals once I do find somebody that is willing to talk. So all of that I just showed you, you can, again, say it's been the same link the whole time. Use that. That's my website, ultimateforeclosureformula.com, and then /DAR promo. That'll help you get it.
Excellent. I do have 2 questions, actually 3 questions. So how do you search to determine if there's any liens against the property, and if so, how do you resolve those liens?
Oh, that's a great question. How do you resolve those liens? Goes on and on and on forever, depending on what the liens are. If they're HOA liens, then you have to go through the HOA process and try to negotiate them down. If they're IRS liens, that would be a more difficult process. If they're judgments and liens, typically what we do is, one of the other forms that you're going to get if you click on this link is the authorization to release information. If you can get permission from the buyer or the seller, excuse me, and you get on the phone with the seller or on their behalf, and you call Ford Motor Corp or you call whoever it is that has the lien on there, and you try to work through it, sometimes you can get a short pay, as they call it. You can get a payoff if you were to pay it for closing. In terms of researching the liens, you can, here in Georgia, we have a program called gsccca.org, and you could put information in there and search property liens. A title examiner is the best way to go. A lot of times, this is pre-purchase, right? Pre-purchase, I don't need to spend money on a full title exam, but I need to do a preliminary title exam. If you're doing a lot of work and you use the same closing attorneys over and over again, they may do some title exams. They may have their examiners do title exams for you at no cost until you get way ahead and you've got 3 or 4 or 5 and you haven't closed anything. Otherwise, somewhere between $25 and $50 is what you can offer a title examiner, and you're asking for a one owner search. So if there are liens on the property, and a pre-foreclosure means there's a mortgage, I know that if there's a mortgage, that the lender did their homework before they put a loan on this property. So anything that happened on title prior to this one owner, I'm not worried about that right now. Now, that's just my pre-purchase hat. Once I'm ready to close, my closing attorney or my title company is going to do a full title search. And in that particular case, I want to be able to get an owner's title insurance policy. So I do need a full title search when it's time to buy it. But when I'm trying to decide if I'm going to take it subject to, if I'm going to take it as a seller finance deal or whatever I'm going to take, I need to know preliminarily what that title looks like. So it's a very, very important question. Think about this. If somebody is losing the roof over their head there's a really good chance that they're in financial problems elsewhere, which is a high likelihood that there are some kind of liens, property tax liens as well.
Okay, thank you. I have a two-part question, but I just want to interject as it relates to self-directing. Just, friendly reminder, if you're making this investment within your self-directed IRA, any expenses related to the investment if the IRA is the only party involved in a deal, then the IRA is going to be the one paying those liens or, any expenses, whether it's a contractor bill or invoice. So the IRA covers the expenses. Obviously, if the IRA is partnered, whether with yourself or someone else, then the IRA is going to cover its share of the expenses. So whatever percentage the IRA owns, if it's a partnership deal, depending on how the deal is structured, the IRA covers its portion. If the IRA, is the only party involved in the deal, then the IRA covers all of the expenses. Two-part question really quick is, can I view and inspect the property? And then how do I determine if the property is a good deal or will it be a money pit?
What was the first question, Renika?
So the first question is, can I view and inspect the property? And then how do I determine if the property is a good deal or will be a money pit? So can I view or inspect the property? Like, can they go on premises?
Great question, great question. So I'll give you the official and the unofficial answer. Number one, to know whether or not the property is a money pit, you need an experienced eye on there. Even me, 30 years in the business and thousands of transactions, thousands of properties we've renovated and sold, I still hire, at times, I'll hire an inspector or a contractor to go out and give me a $150 inspection. I said, look, all I need to know is, what do you see under the hood? Because I can tell that the property's in bad shape, but I don't really have the eye for knowing everything under the crawl space, in the attic, the electrical, the plumbing, etc. So I'll spend the money. And I'm 30 years in the business. I'll spend the money to hire somebody to go out there and do that. One of my best wholesale deals ever was in Gwinnett County, which is a great county. I wanted to renovate that house. But after I had my go-to guy come back and he said, I would not touch that house on that foundation. I'd rather start a brand new house. I ended up wholesaling that deal, and somebody else made a great amount of money on it, but I still made great money on it as wholesale. But he kept me from getting into a project that would take me over a year to finish. So my rule of thumb is this, we're all investors here. This is an IRA meeting here, right? Annualized return. Think about annualized return. Don't get into projects that you can't do twice, flip your money twice a year in real estate. That's my theory, is I want to flip my money twice a year. So if I can't buy it, fix it, put it on the market and close it in less than 6 months, then I should think twice before I do that deal. And more so if you're brand new in this business. So for me personally, I've got a lot of friends in the business that do ITP, which is the urban area inside the perimeter in Atlanta, and they pop the top and they change the footprint. And I say, unless you're experienced and know what you're doing and you don't mind taking 9 months to 2 years to get done, don't touch it. So there's that. The getting in the house. So the official answer is don't break and enter, don't trespass. And then the other side of the business, let me put my investor hat on. As a real estate investor, I door knock. And so when I see, let's say I have 5 addresses in pre-foreclosure, I'm taking out 150 flyers. And I'm going to go down, let's say that the address is 100 Main Street. I'm going to go down to 70 Main Street and park in front of 70 Main Street. And I'm going to start putting flyers out. 3 or 4 houses before the pre-foreclosure, at the pre-foreclosure, 3 or 4 houses after it, and then 5 houses across the street. And I'm knocking on doors and I'm saying, hey, I'm Darlene, the investor, whatever I'm saying. I'm Darlene with Dar Buys Houses, looking to buy houses in the area. Do you or anybody need to sell a house this month? We also have been working with families in forbearance and foreclosure, and you can decide whether or not you want to say you know what's going on, or you just want to play the passive approach. But I have my branding talks about helping families in foreclosure. So I'll knock on doors, and sometimes I'll look in the front windows, and every now and then occasionally there's a door open, but efficiently, just keep yourselves on the right side of the law. So buying at the steps and buying post foreclosure, normally you do not get inside the house. So once again, for the brand new investor who's never done a deal, don't do it by yourself.
Okay, great. I have one question and also an invitation. So question is, would you suggest the team build includes more than one CPA?
What's that again? Would I say that again?
So the question is, would you suggest the team build, like building your team includes more than one CPA? That's the question.
That's a great question because actually, I think you need to find the right CPA, but then you probably just need that person to handle all of your matters, and that's a difficult one. That's really tough. Once again, everybody has a different opinion on tax matters and finances, and that's the most difficult part of this business for me, is finding the person you like best that is qualified. When it comes to a CPA, I want to find somebody who has invested in real estate. I want to find somebody who has rental properties. That's the person I would prefer when it comes to CPA.
Okay, and the actual invite, this person referenced that they want to set up a consult call, and also too that they're on the board of the National Society of Tax Preparers, and they would like to provide, like for you to provide a webinar for their group if possible. So I would encourage you to definitely reach out to Darlene. I'll share my screen with her contact information. Also too, she's provided it a few times, so definitely reach out to her directly and see if that's an opportunity, or the time allows that. Just bear with me one moment. So, and I think that takes us at the top of the hour as well.
Look at us, right on time.
Yeah, that covers all of the questions. Great questions throughout, Darlene. Excellent information. Again, I'm a real estate investor. I personally, took the foreclosure boot camp a few years ago, and it was invaluable to my real estate journey. So if you have specific questions about self-directed IRAs, again, definitely reach out to us at Advanta. You can call me, email me. If you want to connect directly with Darlene, you have different options to do so. You can reach her at support@darbuyhouses.com, or check out her website that she provided, the ultimate foreclosure formula.com. And then, of course, if you want the materials that she referenced, the free ebooks or handouts, definitely reach out to her at ultimateforeclosure.com/darpromo. Darlene, do you have any final comments before we end today's webinar?
No, I think that's it. Also, the one-on-one consultation is through that same link with Dar Promo. It just says bonuses for Darlene and friends, and you'll see it in there. The also the hands-on training, it's 3 months of coaching along with the boot camp and the online. So it's awesome. But the one-on-one consultation, that's the best thing for me. If you want to get on one-on-one, if you would go there and just click on it.
Excellent. Thank you so much again, Darlene. This was great information. Thank you everyone for attending. The webinar is recorded. It will be uploaded to our YouTube channel within the next 24 to 48 hours. So feel free to revisit, continue to, check out our events page for upcoming webinars and networking events. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Renika. Take care.
Likewise. Thank you.